Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 27th Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Wheat, will you lead us, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Next up will be the roll call members. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilman Kincaid.
Present.
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson.
Here.
Councilmember Copeland.
Here.
Councilmember Wheat.
Present.
Councilmember Messenger.
Present.
Thank you.
Very good. Next, we'll move on to the approval of minutes from our previous meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes?
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our minutes are approved. On to, first up is old business. I don't have anything on my agenda. Is there anything from the council?
Nothing from me.
Okay, move on to new business then. First item up is ordinance 2020-01, consideration of a planned unit development rezone and ordinance for a proposed mixed-use development called the Waterford. This is on first reading, so I'll turn it over to Ben Bontrager.
Good evening, council members. I'll let the applicant do most of the speaking tonight. I'll go walk through some of the technical aspects of the development. A little bit, we'll remind you all of the process for a planned unit development ordinance, what that entails, and then let them talk a little bit about their neighborhood and development. First, a little bit procedurally, planned unit development rezone and ordinance is a multi-step process. First, it goes to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission reviews the rezone and ordinance, all the technical details associated with that, and then they provide a recommendation to the council. And then the council, as all ordinances, there will be two readings of the ordinance, and the council then adopts the ordinance. One thing procedurally, I have been working at one of the elements at the Plan Commission. We were working to try to create some flexibility on lot sizes for a certain type of housing product. And so the Plan Commission essentially made their recommendation to the council and indicated they would ask the planning staff to negotiate those terms with the applicant, present them to the council for adoption, and then it will have to go back to the Plan Commission to be confirmed as an amendment to the ordinance that the Plan Commission reviewed. So that's something that'll be a little bit of a change here, and I'll highlight some of those. I did post those changes to the folder I had emailed you last week. I posted those earlier today. You may have not seen them, so I'll highlight them a little bit tonight, some of the things we're looking at with them. So if they could pull up the screen for me from the computer. Just walk through this development a little bit. This is the overall conceptual development plan for the Waterford Plan Unit Development. This actually includes both the part of that is being considered as part of the PUD ordinance tonight, and also the second piece of it that's the annexation piece that will be added to the overall PUD ordinance once the annexation becomes effective. So essentially that major piece of that, the main piece, the southern half of that is what's being considered tonight in the PUD ordinance. If you walk through kind of the overall, there are four main primary districts that will be included in this overall development. What you see there in the blue is an industrial district. Kind of follows our planned business industrial zoning classification from a use perspective. The yellow or dark yellow or almost light orange color then would be a commercial retail office district, what I would call more of an auto-oriented commercial district. May include some larger office building, Class A space, depending on market demands. The purple, which is over on 400 East, is the Village Center District. This is a mixed-use district. Will include, some Cape Cod style retail. Your corner ice cream store. Other smaller retails like that. Could include some second-floor apartments or multifamily, something like that. Something that's a very pedestrian-oriented little village center district. And the final one, the green piece, it would be all residential. So that would encompass both single-family residential, multifamily residential, could be townhomes, condos, kind of runs the gamut there. And as the applicant will go into a little bit here in detail, there will be a golf course that's designed and developed as part of this, so you'll have a lot of golf course residential opportunities. And I'll go back to the village center here. In addition to be pedestrian-oriented, it'll also be golf cart-oriented. So they expect a lot of the neighbors in the neighborhood may have a golf cart for the golf course, and they also want the golf cart travel to be integrated into this development. So if somebody wants to go down to the village center and get ice cream, they can hop in their golf cart and ride on trails and and et cetera, and get to the village center. So one of the interesting things or unique things about the village center is that their parking requirements, a portion of their parking requirements can be met by providing golf cart parking and not just auto parking. So again, really trying to orient this towards the pedestrian and golf cart. So just walking through some of the highlights of each one of those districts. As they will go through in a second, this is a high-quality development. We've written the standards very specifically to include high architectural standards, but still allow them some flexibility on lot sizes. Again, in a typical village district like this, a lot of times you have smaller lots, larger open space areas for the residents. So we wanted to make sure the architectural standards were high. So what we've done, kind of walking through the residential, that's the main piece I wanted to touch on for you, is we've divided up the standards into different residential types. So there's a chart that's included in the ordinance that I'm sure you've seen. We have single-family detached housing with a front-load garage, but we're calling it village style. And what this means is that the garage has to be set back at least 10 feet from the main part of the house. So the house will be very prominent, shorter front yard setbacks, but then the garage will be set back, and then make sure that there's still 20 feet in the worth of driveway, so you can park 2 cars in the driveway and 2 cars in the garage. So that's something that'll be very house forward. The garage, while being front load, will be set back from the house more in a village style. Single family detached.
Then will that be like alleys in the back?
No, we have a separate category for rear load. So this is still front load garages with the garages facing the front, but they'll just be set back from the rest of the house.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be essentially a 20-foot setback for the garage and a 10-foot setback
Okay.
for the house, so the
Okay.
house is more prominent.
Okay.
Yep. So the second one would be single-family detached front load, but with a garage forward design, and that's what you probably, most of you are accustomed to in a typical suburban residential development, where you've got house and garage, and the garage is either even with the rest of the house, or the garage is even in front of the rest of the house. It's kind of your typical suburban house style. We did want to accommodate those, but then in this case, then you have a little bit larger lot sizes, a little bit larger setbacks than we had on some of the other village style housing. The one thing that we did add in here is the applicant wanted some flexibility to allow some narrower lot widths for front-load garage houses, both for certain product types that this applicant may develop, and then some of the other builders that are interested in this area might also develop with smaller lots. So what we've done in that case is this house standard is required to have a 60-foot. The standard for this is a 60-foot lot width, 7.5-foot side yard setbacks, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's an option if for certain sections in the development, at this size development, there's probably going to be dozens of residential development sections. There's a specific section where that builder or developer says, I want to be able to do 50-foot wide lots in this section. Then there's a separate set of standards on top of what's already required that they will have to accommodate in that neighborhood. What we've done is basically create an options list to say, okay, you have to choose one of these 5 options in addition to the typical residential architectural landscape standards to go above and beyond to allow you to essentially reduce your lot widths. So that was what was added earlier today. Again, it allows them to go from 60 feet lot width to 50 feet, from 7.5-foot side yard setbacks to 5 feet, and allows the facade proportions, typically on that type of front-load garage house, we only allow the garage to be 45% of the total width of the frontage, and the house has to be 55%. This will reduce it essentially to 50-50, so allow those facade proportions. But then we add an additional section that requires additional standards above and beyond. And keep in mind, our architectural standards across the board here are going to be very high. There's masonry requirements, there's hardy plank requirements, there's window trim requirements on all sides of the house. There's a list of architectural features, and they have to choose at least 4 architectural features to be on the house. So then if they want to go down to 50-foot wide, then you go from 4 to 5 features on the house, and 3 of them have to be on the front facade. One of the options is 4 features plus you increase the front yard setback to allow for additional landscaping on the front, again, just to try to dress it up. So there's a series of 5 different things that they can choose from in specific sections, and all homes would have to meet that additional requirement in there to allow that flexibility. There will be sections of homes constructed like this that will meet the 60-foot or have much larger lot widths, but they did want some flexibility, and we said if you're going less than 60, we need some additional standards that they would have to be required to meet. Then we've got the single-family detached rear load. There will be sections in particular around the village center where you'd see more of a rear load garage product, and they wanted to accommodate that and have standards associated with that. And then we move into the more dense products like single-family attached, like duplexes or triplexes. Certain types of markets may be looking for a product like that, so then we have standards associated with that. And then single-family attached, townhome and condos, and again, standards associated with that type of development. So as of right now, they have a large area that's specified for residential and green. Again, there will be multiple sections that develop in here, and depending on how the market changes and what some of the demands look like, certain sections will be different types of housing, and they'll walk through what some of those concepts are for that here in a little bit. In the industrial section, again, I mentioned this follows along from a use perspective, our planned business industrial zoning classification, but we did add some additional architectural standards. Again, we wanted the architectural standards to be very high. So for right now, if you have a large-scale industrial building, you are exempt from our architectural standards, our ordinance, and that's citywide right now. What we've done here, one, is that we've limited the size of the buildings. Our economic development strategy usually doesn't include million square foot distribution centers with $14 an hour jobs. We want to really make sure that these are more light manufacturing tech companies that have higher wages. Those are typically not million square foot buildings, although if we get a tech company that's a million square feet, we'll certainly consider it. But we have limited building size to 500,000 square feet, and in addition, there's architectural standards. If you're building less than 100,000 square feet, you have masonry requirements. If you're from 100 to 500, you also have some additional materials requirements, and then facade breaks and things like that. So again, standards that we don't require anywhere else in the city will be required here on industrial buildings to make sure we get quality development and architecture. Moving on then to the commercial retail area. This follows essentially our planned business commercial zoning classification. So anything from more traditional auto-oriented retail to office, and other types of commercial related there is what you will see here. I'll let them talk a little bit about what their concept is for that. And I've already mentioned the village center a little bit, and that really follows our central business district standards, our neighborhood business standards. Again, you're looking for smaller retailers, more neighborhood oriented retail type stuff there. So that's kind of the big highlights. I know there's been a lot of discussion about utilities, and certainly as all you are aware, there aren't utilities other than electric in this area. And our utilities are already working on some concepts of how to provide that to this area, and they have assured us that they do have the capacity to do that, and are already starting to work on the conceptual plan to deliver water and sewer down to this area. So that is underway. There are a lot of questions about the school district at the Plan Commission meeting, and everything that I've heard is that our school district has capacity for another 1,000 to 1,200 students, so I don't think they're concerned right now about adding kids to their district. I would anticipate that as this develops over time, it's a very large area, that it's going to warrant probably another middle school or some other type of building like that, and they'll have to move kids around. Some of my early projections on build out in this area is that it could add another 8,000 people to the city of Lebanon. So for sure, there's going to be some, over time in the next 15 to 20 years, some discussion about facilities for the school. But for the foreseeable future, they have plenty of capacity. There's some concerns about traffic and how we're going to develop utilities and roads. Right now, the primary cost associated with providing roads and utilities for a development is borne by the developer. There's certainly some oversizing of utilities that are going to be required that then becomes something that will be discussion with Lebanon Utilities, but providing services to the development is borne by the developer. So those are some of the primary questions that came up. There were others, and I'm sure you'll hear some more tonight. We got some folks that live in this area that'll have some questions and concerns for you. Those are some of the quick things that came up. So I really want to just kind of hit some of the highlights of the technical details. I'll let them again talk a little bit more about the development overall. They have a presentation for you, but you have any questions about some of the technical details for me?
Ben, I got a question. We're talking about basically houses that are going to be up close to the street, not much driveway approach, so I'm assuming there's going to be parking on the street somewhere on both sides or something?
They intend right now to meet our standard, so that would be parking on both sides of the street. But in every section of the development, if it's a front-load garage or something where it's accesses off the street, we have made sure there's at least a 20-foot driveway, so there's room for at least 2 cars in the driveway without blocking the sidewalk. On the rear load, it's a little different. I mean, if you got visitors to your house with a rear load garage or primary parking on the street, but we do intend to accommodate on-street parking here.
I just wanted to make sure the family could come in.
For sure.
Park on the street when they have holidays.
That's the intention.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ben?
Not right now.
And we can bring it back up too afterwards if you guys have more questions then. So, okay, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
I guess we'll invite Ken Franson up he's the attorney for the applicant, and we can go forward.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Kent Franson. I'm an attorney with Parr Ritchie here in Lebanon, and I'm here tonight on behalf of my client, Henke Development Group. With me is Steve Henke, who will be making a presentation about this project and these 2 requests before you tonight, along with a couple of other members of his development team. In my opinion, this is the most unique and exciting project that's come to Lebanon in my lifetime. We have an opportunity here to upgrade the city, provide a number of new residential opportunities, recreational opportunities, retail opportunities, office, and some light industrial opportunities. Probably we'll have a new school somewhere on this property in the next decade or so. And it's exciting. It's challenging. There's utility extension that's got to be provided for. Road upgrades are going to be required. It's going to take some time for this to happen. This is not going to happen overnight. Steve Henke estimates 15 years plus before the homes would be completely built. Obviously, economy, war in the Middle East, other factors can affect the timeline of any development, certainly one as large as this. But this is an exciting project for the community. There's two aspects of this. One is the Planned Unit Development Ordinance. This would be called the Waterford Planned Unit Development. And a planned unit development, as you probably know, is nothing more than its own zoning classification that has its own special rules and regulations and standards. It's instead of trying to have a combination of R1 and planned business commercial and light industrial and recreational all somehow in the same area and have a hodgepodge of very difficult zoning standards to meet. It's a planned unit development. The entire project has been planned out, and its standards have to be met. And if they want a waiver or a variance from those standards, it's got to come back essentially to the council because it requires an amendment to the zoning ordinance to change these standards. The other aspect of the application, two different applications. The second one is a voluntary annexation. We have 1,113 acres of land, which is a little over half of the entire project. The owners seek to have their property annexed into the city of Lebanon. No land is being annexed involuntarily. Nobody is being forced to join or become annexed into the city. They've all signed consents to a voluntary annexation. So we have first reading on a proposed planned unit development ordinance that Ben summarized, and Steve Henke is going to talk about in a minute, and then we have another public hearing on a proposed annexation of 1,113 acres that would be assigned an SF zoning classification. Why SF? Because your ordinance contemplates land that's brought into the city is generally brought in as SF, single family, residential. Once it's in the city, then the idea would be that we would seek to have a zoning change from SF to the planned unit development. So we would expand out the planned unit development to include not only what's originally part of the PUD and also the next 1,113 acres. Henke Development Group is the most successful real estate development company in central Indiana. That's a pretty broad statement, but I don't think anyone would disagree with me. They've had the three most successful residential development projects in the last 20 years, starting with the Bridgewater Club in Westfield, followed by the club at Chatham Hills in Westfield, and now they're underway with the Holiday Farms project in Zionsville. These are first-rate, upscale residential communities with lifestyle amenities. This is a lifestyle community with recreation, walking trails, commercial, office, and a choice of lifestyles. Homes in this subdivision are proposed. I call it a subdivision. It's not that technically, but it's like that. Would be on the low end from $250,000 to the high end, upwards of $750,000. So that's the plan. And that's what they've demonstrated in their other projects. And if anyone has any questions about any of the Henke developments, they should go to look to Bridgewater Club, Chatham Hills, Holiday Farms. These are all within 20 minutes of this building right here. And you'll see the kind of work they do, the kind of homes that are built, the attention to detail that is attached to each of these projects. And there's no reason to think this one will be We were before the Plan Commission last Monday night and received a unanimous favorable recommendation in support of both the annexation and the rezoning to planned unit development. So with that, I'll quit talking because you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from Steve Henke and let him show you what he's done at these other projects and what he intends to do with this project. And then we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Kent, I do have a question for you.
Sure.
I have a copy of the petition for the voluntary annexation, and it notes to see owner's consents attached. Did I miss a document, or is that to be delivered yet?
All right, I didn't hear what you said.
The petition for voluntary annexation, there's
Yes.
a note on here that says, "See owner's consents attached." I don't have that.
We have all the owner's signatures. They've been filed with the city. There's one more we're waiting on and we got this evening.
Okay,
All the owners have signed consents to the annexation.
okay, and we'll be able to see those documents once it's completed?
Sure, you can see them tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, just to answer that, I have them all, I just didn't put them in the packet. I
Okay.
wasn't sure if you wanted to see them or not, but I'd be happy to distribute.
I saw the plot descriptions and everything, the
Yeah.
legal description, but.
And that's also for ordinance 2020-02, not
Okay.
01.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I've got them all, I just wasn't sure anybody really wanted to see them, so.
Yeah, and just to clarify for the council too, right, this is two separate issues. The first is the PUD ordinance, and then the annexation is a separate one that we'll be addressing after this as well. I'll turn it over to Steve.
Good evening. My name is Steve Henke. I reside at 3524 Club Estates Drive, Carmel, Indiana. We really appreciate the opportunity this evening to discuss our PUD. It's a very, very exciting project here at Lebanon that we've spent a lot of time and energy putting together a really comprehensive plan for it. Brad is handing out a packet here showing some of the pictures and information that we're going to be going over with you tonight. But I thought it might be helpful to take a few minutes and talk to you just a little bit about our background, what we do, and some of the projects that we've been involved in. I began developing real estate, hard to believe it's 40 years ago now, probably in 1980. Practiced law in Carmel for almost 20 years, but in 1980, we ran out of space and decided to build our own office building on Carmel Drive in the front yard of the Racket Club. And so we did that and then went on to build other office buildings in the Carmel Drive, Medical Drive, and other areas of Carmel. Following that, we began acquiring properties in that area for development. We then, in the latter part of 1998 or so, decided to go of counsel to the firm, which I'm of counsel to Coots, Henke & Wheeler at this time, but went straight into doing development full-time. One of the first, I did some residential development in Carmel, but one of the major ones that we first did that you'll all know and understand is the Bridgewater Club. On the Bridgewater Club, do we have a picture of that? The Bridgewater Club is a golf course committee. We put together almost 600 acres in the late 80s, and we actually planted 100,000 trees on that property. We knew we were going to be holding it for a period of time. Back at that time, farm rent was about $40 an acre, and so we decided to plant trees, and it would be a wooded development by the time we developed it. And so we did that, and as you see now, there's trees everywhere. Most people think it was forested, but we didn't know a lot about planting trees, but it worked out pretty well. I'll give you one quick example. We decided to order 5,000 pines, white pines to start out over there. And of course, we're three lawyers, we don't know anything about it. We come from small towns. I'm from a little town in southern Indiana, population about 500, little town called Holland down near Jasper. So we order these trees, and they come in a refrigerated truck, and they go to downtown to the warehouse, and my partner said, hey, I've got a client who said we can use this U-Haul truck to go down and get these trees. And I said, of course, like the Little Red Hen, nobody could go down with me. So I go down pretty excited to pick these trees up, and I walk into the refrigeration place for it, and I said, I'm here pretty proud to pick up 5,000 trees. Guy comes out with a big box about like that, and about like that, and I said, wow, I said, big box, how many are there? He said, that's it, buddy. So 5,000 seedlings that time, came in one big box. So we planted trees, and that's what is now the Bridgewater Club. It ended up, by the time we acquired additional ground to it, it probably is closer to 1,000 acres today. Multi-use, mixed-use development, very high-end. We did a fairly simple demographic study before going into it. It's on the north side of 146th Street. Mainly at that time it was between 151st and 161st, about a mile east of 31. The demographic study said at that time, which is like in 02, 03, that Westfield could only absorb six $600,000 homes a year. And I looked at my partner and I said, we've got about a 50-year supply of those homes that we're going into. We ended up selling out of those in probably a 4 or 5 year period, most of the lots and everything on the golf course. But what we created was a lifestyle type community. And the lifestyle, it was a golf course community, a lot of trails, trail heads, different places you could stop along the trail, so it wasn't just a long, walking path. We created amenities with a par 3 course so that kids, seniors, people who don't play as much golf could also play that. We built a clubhouse that you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the picture there that has indoor pool, outdoor pool, tennis courts, all types of amenities in the club. Fitness center, about 15,000 square foot fitness center, all enclosed. So that development did extremely well. And so following that, and it's nearly completed, we added, as I said, hundreds of acres to that development as it continued to grow. We then began acquiring ground just north of Westfield, around 199th Street, 203rd Street, and we acquired about 700 acres originally there, and we're up to maybe 1,200 acres or 1,100 acres at this time. We began developing Chatham Hills. Chatham Hills is a golf course community that we started in 2014-15. We hosted the Indianapolis Homerama there in 2016 and 2018, had some of the largest crowds ever that ever attended those. The picture you see in the upper left-hand corner is the clubhouse that we just completed for that. So our community is more than just golf. For instance, in this clubhouse at Chatham Hills, we not only have the indoor swimming, we have indoor simulator lounge where you can play golf and on different courses inside on a screen. It measures where your ball lands and the angles and everything else. We also did a gymnasium. I'm not sure there's a club in the country, except it should be in Indiana, which it is, that has a hardwood basketball court in it. So a lot of 3v3. It's used a lot for kids' activities, for kids' camps. If people are working out at the club, if they're playing golf at the club, they're doing things at the club, we have a daycare that can take care of them at the club. In addition to that, on this, wanted just to appeal to the whole community, we have a 4-lane bowling alley. We're probably one of only 2 clubs. We were not aware of any club in the country that had a bowling alley in it, but we had a 4-lane bowling alley. It's great for kids' parties. It's great for all types of activities. We have different areas of the development, different pods of the development that are forming their own bowling leagues and the bowling shirts and everything. It's just been a tremendous asset for us. Again, the outdoor pool there. Pickleball courts are really popular now, so we are building pickleball courts, tennis courts, all the amenities that you can think of. And of course, with the gym, we can do volleyball, we can do indoor pickleball and things like that. It creates a community hub. It's one of those things that you have a community within a community. The barn that you can see in the lower left-hand corner, you might have recognized that. That's on US 31, just south of 38. So it's about 2 miles north of Westfield, and that barn was falling down. It was built around the 1830s, mid-1830s, when they first acquired the land there. We went in and restored the entire barn, 2.5-inch, 3-inch solid oak tongue and groove flooring. It now is an event center. The Rich Charles has, I think, 26 weddings there last year, 22 weddings already booked for this year. Gearin High School has their proms there. Just becomes an event center that not only does the community use it, but the public uses it with weddings and events and things like that. In addition to that, these are homes that you will see at Chatham Hills that have been completed. As I said, we hosted the 2016 and 2018 Home-A-Ramas there. Holiday Farms is a development that we're currently working on. Holiday Farms is on 421. If you were going south of Road 300, it's approximately 136th Street. If you know where Interactive Academy is, it's right across the street from Interactive Academy. That is a 600-acre development that was sought by many people for a lot of years to try and develop. It was the Holiday family had it, and the Holiday family, after Mr. Holiday passed away, talked with us, and we worked out arrangements, and we're now developing that property. The golf course will be completed this summer, and seeded and everything. Most of the bunkers are already in. Some of the streets are already in. We're hosting the 2020 Indianapolis Home-A-Rama this year at that site. I think we have 12 homes in that, and I think those homes are averaging $1.7 million dollars a home. The lower picture is Pete Dye. Pete designed the course. Pete just passed away recently, world-renowned golf course architect. His wife insisted on him taking that picture in the weeds there like he's trying to hit out of it. But Pete normally would not be in the weeds. Not only was an incredible golf course designer, but he played Chatham about 2 years ago in September, played every hole, and three of the four par threes, hit the green on those, and only missed one fairway in regulation. Never lost a ball the entire day. He had played on Saturday before at Crooked Stick, all 18 holes, never lost a ball, same ball. And so, anyway, we now have that ball. I said, Mr. Dye, I said, can I have that ball? I said, who can play Crooked Stick and play Chatham Hills with the same ball? He said, sure, you can have it. I said, will you sign it? He said, sure. So, anyway, that's really a great thing to have as a memory. The bridge in the upper right-hand corner is a bridge that collapsed in the mid-'90s from a concrete truck going over it. And more recently, about 2 or 3 years ago, a farm tractor went over with the disc, and the disc caught the bridge and pulled it down on top of it. So that's now been rebuilt. It's been rebuilt, and it's anticipated that will be part of a elaborate trail system for the public, bicycles, walking paths. We're creating a trail from 421 all the way to Eagle Creek through the development. There'll be the Holiday Trail. There's a trail from the south called the Turkey Foot Trail, and they will come together in the development right at the bridge. Another development we have been fortunate and honored to have worked on is Graham Park. Westfield had an initiative that they wanted to create an economic driver. They wanted to look at sports tourism. We located some property for them. They were looking at a property 146 in town. They decided to look at other locations. We worked with them and found, we were able to put together about 5 or 6 properties on 191st Street between that and what is now 186 in Spring Mill. So they obviously selected the location. They then hired us and asked us if we would develop the property for them. So for about a 3 or 4 year period, if you've been to Graham Park, your kids, grandkids, whatever, it's a phenomenal success story. But that was a very, very detailed development. Some of the things that we do in development, we used, obviously, irrigation, drainage, all those factors, but learning about synthetic turf, the mixture, sand to crumb rubber, more sand on a baseball field than crumb rubber, more crumb rubber than sand on soccer fields to get the right balance, everything. A lot of detail in there, but we're really happy to see all the people that are using that. These are just pictures of Graham Park, aerial pictures, pictures from behind the backstops. We did brick backstops, brick dugouts, everything was done, really, really first class. There's just kids enjoying the fields. This brings us to the property that we're here to talk about. Ben gave a really good overview of it as to what the property is and what we're planning to do. This particular exhibit shows the property that is already annexed, as well as the property that we are going through the voluntary annexation. The property, as he noted, is bounded on the east side by Road 300. Road 400. On the south side by 300. On the west side by 65, and the north side by Road 100. Then there is a 150-acre parcel up next to the fairgrounds in the upper left-hand corner. This is the overall layout that he was also discussing and talking about. In looking at a project this size, we know that part of Lebanon's thoroughfare plan is to seek an interchange in that area. We would also certainly like to have an interchange there on 65. So that's one of the things that we would be seeking and working with Lebanon to obtain that. The layout of the development, everything would include golf, would include a village center. The purple area you see would be a village center. I have pictures I'll show you shortly of that, and as well as trails through the development. On the warehouse industrial side there, an office, we have like a lake going in there. You see that small lake going sort of to the north, that lake right there. It looks small on this drawing, but that's about 15 acres. The park on the north side that parallels up along the blue property up through there, that's a 20-acre park. So we're laying this out to really maximize and have trails, not internally, as well as utilizing the rails trail that is on the northeastern portion of the property. That runs through the property. We would have access then to a village center, which I said is the purple area there, where people can ride their bikes, they can walk to. That's open to the public. It's public and the residents. The public can also join. The club can join for social memberships, swimming, tennis, everything, as well as the golf. So that's the initial PUD zoning area again as to what is annexed at this time, and so. But we wanted to show you the entire project so you can see how it all ties together. There will be homes also in the residential of all different price levels, different sizes. We did the same thing at Bridgewater, same thing at Zionsville, and the same thing at Chatham Hills, from empty nesters up to larger estate type homes. These pictures here are some examples showing what some of the commercial can look like. Today, to attract your office buildings, Class A office space and everything, you have to have amenities for them. The days of just building an office building out alone are over, because people want to be able to walk to restaurants, they want to walk to shops. An example of that is the marketplace at Carmel. All that is really now developing around it, the commercial and everything, because people can walk to it. Mayor Brainerd is talking about doing that on some of the buildings on 31, putting villages in, so again, people can walk to those shops. This is an example of what we would like to do in the village center. In the village center, you're not doing your regular type commercial, but again, you're doing more of a Cape Cod type, a New England style, architecture. We would be putting in a large lake. We need a lake for the golf course and for amenities. And the lower left-hand picture of the brown building is the Haagen-Dazs ice cream shop that is located on a lake on a development that we looked at in Florida. We spent a lot of time looking at developments all over the country as to those developments are going forth, whether it's Plymouth, Massachusetts, or it's Dallas, whatever. What's the latest trends? What do people want? What are they looking for in their developments? There's potential for a community center to go into this project on a project this size over time. As Ken indicated, this is a 15 to 20-year project. This project doesn't happen overnight, but with that size, we can come in and plan a first-class development for the whole 2,000 acres, whereas in many situations, you're planning an 80-acre section, a 40-acre section, a 30, 100, whatever, and all of a sudden, you have a little bit of a mishmash. In this case, it can be done in an orderly, organized fashion. These are other examples of amenities at the club. For instance, the picture on the right is the spinning class room at Chatham. Lower picture is a fire pit outside the clubhouse, very popular today for lounging and enjoying drinks after dinner. The picture above, bowling alley, that's actually our 4-lane bowling alley at Chatham. Just had a big birthday party there this last Saturday morning. It was great. It was my grandson, so that was good. The next picture shows a playground area. When you're doing a larger development of this type, you have an opportunity to do multiple playgrounds. You have an opportunity in some areas, especially like near the clubhouse or wherever, to do a larger type playground in parks and that type of thing. You can attract people of all ages too. This also shows some water features, both indoor and out, that can be added as part of the community. The upper right-hand picture is an indoor facility. Golf, one of the things we want to do here is create an aqua range, and you're going to say, well, what's an aqua range? It's actually a golf course practice area that you hit the ball into the water. And you're going to say, well, why did you lose all these balls? Well, the balls are about 20% more restricted flight than normal balls, okay, and they float. So there are a number of courses in Florida that have these. We want to include this not only at the clubhouse, but as a public amenity to be part of the village center where you can come and have activities. You can see in that picture on the left that there's some floating greens out in the water. They're just like, they're rafts that are anchored. You never have to wash the balls. They don't get plugged into mud. You pick them up either from the shore or in a little boat in a net from whichever side, the opposite side that the wind is blowing. So it's really an exciting thing, and we're excited to include that. Don't look at the guy's swing. It's really not a very good swing. Mine's worse, but that's not very good. As I said, a lifestyle community, a lot of different homes, different priced homes, different type homes, from villa homes up in the right-hand corner to empty nester homes in the middle on the left. And as you go down through that, what we do is create a lot of variety. We'll take a pod, and that pod will be homes in the 500,000 to 600,000. Another pod may be the 250 to 300, price range. We also have an architectural review board, and with the architectural review board, you have to obtain approval from us before filing for your building permit, because there are things that we look at, as to are there enough windows? Do we need a steeper slope on this? Do we need to add cupolas? What can we do to make this house look better? And we do that all the time. Did it at Bridgewater, doing it at Chatham, and doing it at Holiday Farms in Zionsville. So we review that. We also review all the landscaping. We require them to make a deposit, substantial deposit for the landscaping, which is not returned to them until compliance and it's completed at the end of the project. So we take a lot of pride in buildings looking different and having a lot of different character and architectural changes in the building, as well as significant landscaping, including sizes of plants and number of plants. This is another example of the house up in the left. That's an alley home. That as you get closer to the village center, empty nesters prefer to be close to the village center. They can walk easily to it. There's different things you can do to tie that together, like the picket fences, as homes are closer together as they're in the village center. Pictures on the right show golf pictures also from Chatham. These are another example of homes in Zionsville that are paired living homes side by side where you have two units to a home. These are townhomes. 2-story and 3-story townhomes. Again, those typically are going to be closer to your neighborhood village center. The trend today is away from 3 and 4-story and more into, or having elevators, more into having first floor living. It requires a little bit wider footprint, but people are going away from a lot of stairs, especially empty nesters, where you get first floor living, meaning you have the master, kitchen, everything on the first floor, bedrooms, second floor. This is another, more examples as far as on the western sub-district, which is more commercial oriented, especially like where the interchange would go, and the types of restaurants and so forth there. So it's a whole different venue as you get onto 65 or adjacent to 65 versus the village center on Road 400. Another type user that could certainly at some point in time, not currently, but as rooftops are developed, and could be an amenity or that type of box use. On 65, we have the opportunity for office space, Class A office space, especially with the visibility and design layout, and that's how we have designed that. Also incorporating green space, and again, they can walk to the shops, restaurants. They can also walk to or ride their bikes, whatever, to the village center. A lot of people are doing that. We have bike racks in front of commercial, so that we encourage bicycles. Just another type use in that western district. And again, this is more of your office warehouse. Again, in that northwestern district, and that's one of the things that we care more about. We care as much about how that looks and how that's integrated in the landscaping, design, everything, as anyone, because our residents will be there. We had some questions. Will there be smells? Will there be light? What it is? We have a vested interest in making sure that does not become a problem because of our residential immediately next door. Which is why also we're putting in the lake, the trails, the 20-acre park, adjacent to that too. It's just another example of architecture for that. So that brings us back to the overall layout of the property. As I said, we're really excited about it. We think it's a great location. The access is great. It's close with 65. Having that access, we think that it's a project that will take a while to develop, but it's a project that brings quality. It's a lifestyle community. It helps keep people in the community. It helps attract people in the community. It helps attract businesses in the community because they have that lifestyle. We have a number of situations where people are locating businesses in Westfield now because they want to live at Chatham. They want to be next door to it. So again, we appreciate your time, and I'll be available here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions from council for Steve?
I had a question. Have you guys done any type of feasibility study to see if the population can support this type of new neighborhood and growth that quickly?
We have not done a study on that. We haven't done a study on any of our projects other than a real light demographic one on Chatham, on way back on Bridgewater. Generally, those demographic studies can't anticipate what we're really doing as far as creating amenities. We create destinations. You take Chatham. Chatham is a development that is probably 3 or 4 years ahead of schedule. That property was really out away, even probably more so than this would be. But it creates that destination. People want to go there because there are amenities, there are features. It's great for families. The kids have the bicycles. We have even at the clubhouse at Chatham, we'll have kids will be dropped off from the bus at the clubhouse. They'll come in, have a Coke, order fries together, and work on homework. I mean, it creates kind of that older community type living. So we know that growth is headed this way. We think that there's a real demand for move-up homes in this area, especially coming from the south here. And with what we create, it's just as shown by what's happened in Zionsville and Carmel, Westville, whatever, is we feel really confident that it's a great location and that the population will come here.
Steve, so what I hear you say is you build in front of growth and just gamble that it's going to be there.
We bring growth.
Yeah.
We bring growth.
I heard someone say one time that they labeled this as Anson 2.0. Would you say that that is accurate,
No.
and why?
Anson's great. Anson's a great project, but what we do is we create a whole lifestyle for the area. You know, with the golf, with all the amenities, with the clubhouse, with all the features like that. It ties everything together, and I think creates more of a community within a community.
I think this is also more pedestrian and cycling focused probably than Anson is, which is very car focused as well too.
So you learned from Anson what not to do?
I don't follow Anson.
Any other questions for Steve?
Excuse me, I'd like to just comment on the Mike's comment there. I've been to Chatham Hills, and I've been to Bridgewater, okay? And both of them are very nice. I happened to be one day driving, cutting across country, and ended up in Chatham Hills somehow, and come across the Monon Trail, and had to stop for people going across the trail, and follow the road around, and next time I'm through the golf course, right in front of the clubhouse, and I stopped and I watched everybody playing pickleball and tennis, and so then I drove in the neighborhood. I've been there about 3 times because I wanted to see it, how it was coming, and this was way before you thought about coming here, but I wanted to see it, and because I know a couple of people that live back there, and or people that have family members that live back there. This is nothing in the way like Anson. This actually puts, in my opinion, Anson development to shame. This is totally different. It is very nice. I think it's something that we've been needing here in the city of Lebanon for a long time. And the only drawback that I saw in the whole presentation was that water golf driving range. You know, it's kind of like, I don't have to practice to hit balls in the water. I do it very easily. But I thought that was a neat concept, though. But anyway, Chatham Hills is a very neat, and to me, you could see it was a very family-oriented place. Bridgewater, I've been to a couple events there at the clubhouse. Never really went back in that far deep into the development. But Chatham Hills, when I got to the clubhouse, you could see people there and people on the trail, and I thought, this is cool, because this is what we need, something like this, and to get people, families together and get them to go and so forth. So I think this is could be a very nice addition to our community and so forth, and I like the trail coming through there. My only question is, where was it? I might have missed it when you said, where's the golf course going to go in this scheme that you have here?
The golf course will circulate up through above and below, you know, the lake there at the village center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's Chatham in Bridgewater. We start out about 600 acres to do a golf course. That's about what you need, to do a golf course in residential community. 600. And this is as I said, almost 2,000. So the map. Looking at this map to get it to this scale so you can see it is really different, because it really is so much larger, than it looks there. But it would go out. We envision the clubhouse being on the north side of the lake there, clubhouse community center, and then from there It's like Pete Dye told me one time, where do you want your clubhouse? Because 1 goes out and 9 comes back,
Yeah.
10 goes out and 18 comes back. And so
Yeah.
that's what we did.
My only other concern is, I'm an old highway guy, used to be county highway superintendent years ago, that when we were doing transportation planning years ago at the county, 400 East was going to be a major road someday. And I see with this type of development and the more that could come to the south side of 300 south down there in that little, what I call triangle area, I see as a good spot for something down there as well. My only concern that this is going to generate a lot of traffic on 400 East and back, I tell my age, 25, 30 years ago when I was at the county, 400 East was like a major thoroughfare from 267, 232. This is not going to change that. This is still going to add to that. And I'm kind of, I don't know where, I like the roundabout idea, I like roundabouts, people probably don't, but I do. I drive through them a lot, so. But I'm just kind of concerned on that little area and the pink being right there, and we're looking at something that could be a major thoroughfare road going through there with the traffic. So I don't know what you guys are thinking that way, and I think you need to think about that a little bit, because there's a lot of traffic on 400 East today, and that's not going to change with this development, because you're going to have people that are going to go both directions, north and south, and east and west, but.
I appreciate that comment. One of the things we took into consideration there on a village center like that, you want the public using it as well as, the residents in the development. We certainly don't want a village center type aspect on 65. It is a great location, we think, on 400, and we have discussed with the city the long-term plans for that. But we think with our access and interests and so forth, it is something that's easy for the rest of the public, as people are living in that area, to get to and utilize, but yet not be a hindrance to traffic. The other thing we like about this site, similar to what when we developed Grand Park, you'll notice if you go to Grand Park, there you can get to, you probably don't have to walk more than 2 or 3 fields to get to a field. Okay, we scattered the parking all around. And we have 4 roads all around, from Spring Mill, 186th Street, Tomlinson, and 191st. And what that did is you don't have everybody backed up, piled up, waiting to get in and out here. What we like about this is you got Perryworth, and you also have to the south then, 300, you got 400, and you got 100, so we can disperse in different directions. If you're going into Lebanon, you're going downtown, you're going to go up in that. And so that's also taking some of the traffic, off of Road 400.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that residential development is really going to be the very first thing, that and the golf course.
Yeah.
And the pink area. It'll probably be the very first thing before you get to the purple industrial and the commercial. Is that what you think?
I think the purple village center will not be the very first thing, because you need rooftops for that. Residential and golf would be, neither would the commercial. The office warehouse, that area could be along that same time period. But basically we need rooftops there to generate the commercial. For the what I would call the yellow or light orange, and the same thing with the village center. It doesn't happen, until you have some synergy of development there. We're now doing that at Chatham. We just acquired 220 acres across from the clubhouse. If you're at the clubhouse, between the clubhouse and 31, and we're going to put in 2 large lakes and do a little village center on the lake, alley homes, that type thing in there. So now that development becomes much more complete, almost like this that we're planning, where you have your residential, you have golf, but yet you have the village center.
Yeah, okay.
Steve, to add to what Dick is talking about, with the development of the residential coming in and everything, do you guys foresee increasing or improving County Road 400 East ahead of what engineering standards would require it to be, the timeframe it would require it?
Well, any
Would you go ahead and
improvements-
make it a boulevard knowing that it's going to explode, or?
Not before it's time. I mean, that's something what we always work with the city as to what traffic is. For instance, you won't have a person living in a home here probably for 2 years. So, you don't want to go out and put all your money into a road that is not going to, have that much use, for a period of time. And then you're looking at, you're developing over a period of time. So we would work with the city on that and engineering and the mayor and everything as to what is that time frame and what the progress, what the projections are, for that road.
I would just want to be cautious that we're not 90% done, and then it's like, oh yeah, we got to rebuild 400, and you guys are long gone, and it's left to us.
Yeah, no, we have a great interest in making sure our residents can get in and out safely too.
Okay. And then the other question was, would the golf course be intertwined with the neighborhood like Holiday Farms, or is it going to be kind of just 50 acres and then surrounded by homes on its perimeter?
No, it would be intertwined. It'd be intertwined with the development. If you look at Bridgewater, you look at Chatham Hills, you look at, Zionsville, they're all that way. That's the best way, to do it because people want to live on a golf course.
Okay.
And so the more homes that are on the golf course, the better. They want the big backyard that's beautiful and they don't have to maintain.
Sure.
60% of the people who live in a golf course community do not play golf.
Right.
But they want to live in a golf course community.
So is that just done through landscape barriers that have some barrier to create some sort of borderline between the golf course and the property? And then also, that kind of leads into the next question, is existing properties around the PUD, how are you going to create some sort of barrier or not if the property owners decide they agree or don't like the
No,
development?
we are putting in mounding as well as landscaping per city standards, everything on every residential property that we come in contact with.
Is there the option for the local people that are not, so I'm looking at properties on like 400, for example, part of the already annexed area, that may not necessarily want the berms. They may want to see what's going on in there, and
If the city approves it to not have berms, we don't have a problem
okay,
with that.
so it's an option for them to
Yes.
do that, so, okay.
And your first part of your question?
I'm just trying to figure out how well integrated or not it'll be in the already existing the homes that are already out there.
Oh, yeah, more than likely, the golf course will not be close to those homes. The golf course will probably be inside and coming back, back to the
Sure,
clubhouse.
I guess where I'm going is it going to be an obvious line where you cross from the country to this really pretty nice neighborhood? Or is it going to be blended and slowly transitioned?
Mounded and landscaping is probably, is what it would be.
Okay.
And setbacks, trees, plantings, we like trees. As I said, we planted 100,000 trees at Bridgewater. Parks, you have the rails to trail going through it. We can see that being a great separation, trees, landscaping, and so forth, along that, really dressing that up. So we blend and work with, agricultural neighborhoods. We did the same thing at Chatham. We're kind of surrounded by that. There are some horses and sheep right across the street from Chatham, where you have $700,000 homes right across the street from it. No one minds that.
Steve, one more question, or another question.
Sure.
On the park system that you're going to put in, is that going to be something that'll be the cities, or is that something that's maintained by homeowners association?
Maintained by
there?
homeowner association, yeah.
Okay. Same thing with the trail that would wander through there?
The trail, the trails through the development, inside the development, there are secondary trails, tertiary trails. Your main trail is that's
Big four?
Yeah, that's a big thing, but trails inside, we try and connect trails to trails depending on the volume, of the Houston area.
Okay. City streets will belong to the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Built, of course, to city standards, obviously.
Right.
Any other questions from council before I open the public hearing?
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's all I
Steve.
have. Thanks, Steve.
Rob, can you read ordinance 2020-01, and then we'll open up for public hearing.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is ordinance number 2020-01, amending the ordinance number 07-16, the Unified Development Ordinance. As Ben Bontrager discussed earlier, the Lebanon Advisory Plan Commission considered a petition 20-04 filed with the commission requesting an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, and that's all attached here as Exhibit A. The commission forwarded docket 20-04 after a public hearing on January 21st, 2020, to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation with a vote of 6-0 in accordance with Indiana law. The Secretary of the Commission then certified the action of the Commission to the Common Council on January 22nd, and this council is subject, again, to the provisions of Indiana law concerning this development ordinance. This is a 15-page ordinance. I just thought I'd highlight through, Ben went through it, some of the details, but Section 1 has the applicability of the ordinance, Section 2 has the definitions, and is what Ben went through, and the concept plan is on Exhibit B in Section 3. The underlying zoning districts are in Section 4. Section 5 has the permitted uses that were also describing the various lifestyle districts and sub-districts, and that's extremely detailed. Section 6 talks about the overlay districts, and Section 7 gets into a little bit more details with the general regulations and has the matrix that Ben highlighted in there as well, and that's several pages. Section 8 contains the development standards that are in this ordinance, which consists of a few pages until you get to page 10. Section 9 has the design standards that are, again, fairly detailed here for several pages. Section 10, again, talks about the permitting and the procedures, the approval or denial of the primary plat and the development plans. And Section 11 contains the vacations of the right-of-way, and then Section 12 details the annexation that Ben described earlier.
Okay. The ordinance has been read on first reading, so this time I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2020-01. So if you have any comments you'd like to share with the council, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and then if you notice we have a lot of people here, so if you could try to keep comments brief and trying to repeat each other, but any public feedback would be appreciated. Somebody has to be first. Please, sir.
Thank you. This is about the first, my name is Mike Prather and I live on 910 South, 300 East. And this is about the first, my neighbor told me about this whole deal. We weren't notified about the other meetings that went on before at all. Caleb brought up a very interesting point to me. On 100 South, okay, where this is the boundary, south of 100 South is taking care of all this new development. But there are houses all along 100 South on the north side, and there are houses all along 100 South on the south side. So all this development that's going to be going on, okay, is going to be right in our backyard. Water, water, water everywhere, I hear. But what about our wells? What about this development affecting the current existing thing? What about it affecting the current city of Lebanon? 8,000 people. Downtown's gone. The bowling alley's gone. The park's gone. Everything as you know it, okay, will be gone. Not only are we affected by the water, the traffic, utilities, what provisions are made for us? See, they didn't annex any of those current houses. That wasn't part of the plan. I already said utilities, or the effect on the current homes, the traffic, the wells, the water tables. What about home values? And our values of our current homes. I see the effect of the grand plan, but I see it really hurting the current people that live in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any additional public comment?
Hi, I'm Susie Beal. I live on 400, 2475 South 400. I addressed a lot of things or my biggest concern, which I will repeat here for the council, I addressed in the public hearing last week, was with a PUD, it allows a lot of leeway on how they develop it. And I want to know what contractual elements are there to keep them to their word. I believe Ben Bontrager got back up and he said that there is an allowance of 30% for a change from this concept plan, and 30% of a 2,000 acre plan is 600 acres. That's a lot. That could almost double the current industrial plot that's on that plan. So that's one of my bigger concerns because I live right against it. Another concern that I have, Mr. Hankey mentioned that he brings the growth and that they have a vested interest in what their houses or the warehouses look like because their residents work there. And he also mentioned that the warehouses would have about $14 an hour jobs. $14 an hour isn't paying for a $300,000 house. So really, who's the residents, who's working, and that's kind of my question there, is how is it really supporting itself? Because the lifestyle living, everybody's staying within that confines. And to reiterate, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, sir, but the point of not bringing to the city where all the money has been put in to revitalize downtown, it's the lifestyle living where these people are expected to stay in that area. So I don't really know how that helps the current small town of Lebanon to keep its small town courthouse living. Thank you.
Susie, I thank you for your comment.
Yes.
I think you might have misheard someone. Mr. Hinkey didn't mention anything about $14 an hour. Ben mentioned that he didn't want $14 an hour.
Okay.
Workers, not he.
My mistake.
But that the way the current buildings are designed and so forth, and the traction that they're having, more like manufacturing type of food or whatever, that's going to be over $14.
Okay.
Wasn't trying to get that, so I think that 14 kind of stuck in the air.
That's why we put the cap on the size of the building, right? So if it's a 1 million square foot building, it's more likely to be logistics, which is why we put the cap at 500,000 square feet, which is more generally manufacturing, which pays the higher wages.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks.
Any additional comments?
Hi, my name's Lois, and I live out on 100.
What's your name? I didn't
Lois
hear.
Kraut.
Lois.
And I know a lot of stuff has been said about 400, but I know there's a section next to the fairgrounds is also being residentially built up, and no one has said how much those houses are going to be or exactly how much of that land is going to be used. And I'm just kind of curious about that section also.
So at this point, right, we're just addressing the overall PUD, which essentially sets the guardrails for the 2,000 acres. So as they, as a home builder or whoever comes in to build homes, then they would have to submit a plan for just a specific area that they build in. So there'd be time for additional public comment through the city planning process at that point, right? So essentially, we're kind of setting up kind of what are the rules of the process, and then later, when someone wants to build homes, they would come in and then submit those plans and have those discussions with the city.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with any of that.
Well, there's no set plan for that area yet, right? This is just kind of setting the overall guidelines for the area. That area is within, set, it has to be within those parameters set, but as a home builder comes in and proposes an area to develop, there would be additional comments and things like that as that progresses.
Well, what she saw, I believe, was she saw pictures of houses being developed. So maybe Mr. Hinkie could say what's going to happen on that little parcel on the north side of 100, because they show that these buildings are going to be 500,000, this is going to be an ice cream shop and all these other things. She's wanting to know, what about this little piece here?
Well, and that's it, we don't know that until
He might know it.
Well, that's true. If you want to answer, Steve, feel free, but, or you can talk to her after, it's your call.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, it's all under the same standards as to what goes there. We don't know at this time what will actually go there. We do know that there's a floodplain area there that will create a lot of green space. I think it's especially near the fairgrounds as well as the drainage, through. But whatever goes there, whatever combination or mix of homes that go there, which is probably a combination similar to what we're doing, would have all the same standards that we have in the PUD. And if do you want to close it?
No, I'm going to keep it open for,
I can respond to the.
I'll let you close at the end. Yep.
Okay.
Any additional comments?
My name is Michael Beal. I live on 2475 South 400 East, just south of the proposed annexation area on the Worth side. I'll start with, this has come across to me as almost a predetermined. Communication has been very concerning at times. Certified letters that were postmarked, starting with certified letter that was postmarked January 2nd. First delivery attempt was successful on January 11th. Just things like that. Today, the certified letter, this meeting is starting at 7:30 per the certified letter. Just lots of little communication issues that give it a bad feel, maybe innocent. I'm not going to accuse anyone, but just somehow someone gives me uneasy feelings. But about the property has been a popular piece. A lot of people have talked about developing this for a long time. Anywhere from Mel Kenyon's golf or go-kart area, water park, golf course, et cetera. It's been a popular. And to think development's not coming, you're either asinine or your head's in the sand. Pick your choice there. When we look at the houses and starting at $250,000 houses, great. I love that, being local, but I have concerns about how realistic. I know he says he pushes the market, but when we're starting at $250,000 going up to $800,000, I look at this town of Lebanon. Lebanon is not Zionsville. Very different demographics, things like that. Socioeconomic differences. And how long does it take for a $300,000 house to sell in Lebanon? How long does it take to sell in Zionsville? Very different time frames. I know we're merging these areas, but okay, so we're $600,000, $800,000 like he's proposing. I question it. Dick, you mentioned the 400 corridor. That was something also very much. I don't like that idea as 400 is a big corridor on my road. It's likely to happen. I understand that. The road on the proposed plan is just north of my house. To me, that road would be more likely to be inside that town center. Go to the clubhouse, make that your thoroughfare through your downtown your new downtown Lebanon, or for the area. I also mentioned this at the Planning Commission, a golf course. This is a little bit different golf course than, say, Trophy Club, than Cool Lake, Golf Club of Indiana, many of which are struggling. Is this golf course going to actually make it, or is it going to be forced to make it based on the homeowners association? I don't know these details, just some thoughts. But those are a lot of the new things that have come across my mind that I have not heard talked about.
Thank you, sir. Any additional comments? Any sudden movements?
I have a question,
Oh,
or I have
sure.
kind of a general.
Well, let me close the public hearing
Okay.
before we, last chance to any public comment. Okay. We also will have additional public comment at our next meeting as well, too, so if you think of something between the two meetings, feel free to come back as well then as well. At this time, I will close the public hearing on ordinance 2020-01. Councilman Messenger, you had a comment?
Just real quick, I won't drag this out. I just want to say, I'm not sure how the well system works. I just have a good friend who lives off 267 in a neighborhood over there, and they're building some industrial, not factories, but maybe they consider factories, I'm not sure, industrial buildings right next to their division where they lived. And her current water level has completely been disrupted when she's been trying to get clean water. I know there's been talk about the city possibly bringing water out there and them getting hooked up on city water. I don't know if that's been already discussed here as possible options for people that live around if this is passed, or if this has even been an option, or something that's been talked about. I don't know if anybody has, in the case of something like that happening. I just thought maybe we should be ahead of the game if something like that was.
It'd be more likely to be able to provide city water and sewer to outlying areas with the development than without it. Us extending utilities in this area, kind of on a build it, they will come type scenario would be very unlikely. So it's a significant cost for utilities, so it's kind of, you need to have a development to justify the
Oh,
investment.
right, I completely understand that. I'm just,
But you're right, once we have the system in place, then it's a possibility of,
ability for people to hook up and stuff. Okay.
Possibility, yeah.
Just want to.
I'd like to build on Sierra's question is, if a property is not annexed into the new, when this whole project is done and it's not part of the total annex, but utility runs out in the roadway because of this project, are they required because they're within the proximity of the utility, or is it because they're still outside of city limits, they don't have to connect?
I believe because they're outside city limits, they do not have to connect.
So if they choose that, they feel that their well and their septic's perfectly fine and it's not being affected by the development, they could remain.
I had to look at my attorney, but I believe until a situation maybe where their septic tank would fail.
Sure.
That may be a situation, but I don't think there's a similar requirement on the water.
Okay.
If their septic tank ever fails, then, and there are utilities available, I believe at that point they are then required to hook on.
But if they are within the annex, then they have a certain time to connect, is my understanding. We'll have to look into that more. I want to verify that in further discussions.
Yeah. Any other comments from council?
Just one comment on on Mr. Beadle's comment about the communication. You need, that would be Ben's department, correct? So you'd have to talk with him about his communication process. Just want everybody to be sure to know that me, as a council person, and I speak probably for everybody, is that we're not up here trying to hide anything or anything like that. I mean, I personally didn't know about this until the planning commission got it. So, I mean, that's how far we get it. And, I'm not actively at the planning meetings, so it's not something that we're sitting in the back room planning these types of things. So that's how I got an interpretation of that, just a touch, Mr. Beadle. So I wanted to make sure that we're not conspiring on anything. Usually I sit up here and I get some papers a few hours before and I start working on it, do a little reading if I can beforehand and move on that way. I'm not prejudging or anything like that. just working within the rules and the guardrails that we have. Thank you.
Mr. Inky, if you'd like to come and close, say any final comments?
Yes, thank you. In regards to the well system, the question you asked on that, in any of these developments, as far as irrigation, anything else, we plan ahead of time on that, and we work with DNR to notify any neighbors, and if there's any problem, like if a pump the well has to be lowered at someone's house, whatever, we've always paid for those expenses.
Oh, that's good to know,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, so we coordinate with that and work with DNR. What we do also, and part of that is you run a test well, and you're pumping a certain amount for a certain period of time, like 72 hours, so, which really gives you that indication whether you're going to affect anything or not, and if you do, you take care of it at that time. And we would do that, even until before water actually got there if it wasn't there. So, the first gentleman spoke, Mike, had a question in regards to drainage. Drainage is a significant issue for us, always. That's why we have so many lakes. That's why the lakes also become a benefit. It becomes an amenity for the golf course. That's why all of our courses, you're going to see a lot of water, and that's because we want drainage also, whether it's for the residents, whether it's for the roads and systems we're putting in, as well as drying the golf course after rain, so we get people back on. So we do that. Our little bowling alley, little 4-lane bowling alley is not going to affect your downtown bowling or any of the amenities. We like what's happened downtown. That's part of the thing that attracted us to this property too, is the progressive nature of what's been done to the downtown. We're not going to create a downtown like you have. That's a much larger scale, but we will bring shoppers and we will bring people that will come to your downtown. We would not be annexing any other property around it. I think that was clarified. We would only annex what would be voluntary. I think Mike also asked the question about what happens to home values. I can tell you that in every development we've done, home values and property values have gone up around our property. Susie, I think we talked about at the neighborhood meeting as well as the Plan Commission, but the question she had, I think, was limitation. I think she raised that at the Plan Commission. The 30% gives us the flexibility. It's not 30% on the whole thing, it's 30% on a section. That one section or other cannot be enlarged more than that, so we would not be, it's not 30% of the whole property. Let's see, what else? Lois's question in regards to the fairground property, that is all residential too. There's no commercial on that. And I think that answers it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So as I mentioned, ordinance 2020-01 has been read on first reading. We'll take this up again on second reading at our Monday, February 10th City Council meeting. So at this time, I would move on to ordinance 2020-02, which is a consideration of the Martin Lemonmanger Stewart, Indiana Trails Fund property annexation to the city of Lebanon, Indiana. And this is on first reading as well.
I'll just quickly, procedurally, on the PUD ordinance, as we mentioned, this will develop in sections. Each one of those will come back to our office for a preliminary plan, and that is a public process also. So as we get further detail on each section as they come in, that will be a Plan Commission hearing as well. So there will be opportunity to see more detail on road layouts, lot layouts, open space, design of homes, et cetera, as those come in by sections. So this is the overall 2,000-acre concept, which is obviously very high level, can't get into much detail. But as each section comes in, anybody who's within 300 feet of those properties that portion of the property will be notified, and we'll have public hearings at Plan Commission for those two. So this is just step one of many as this develops, and there will be additional comment periods. And then on the transportation side, we'll be working with them to do a kind of an overall traffic study, look at kind of the schedule of the growth, figure out when the traffic gets to the point where we need to add widen lanes on 400 or add another lane or something like that. So we'll be able to see, in 5, 6, 7 years, do we need to do something to 400? In 10 years, we need to do X, Y, Z. So that traffic study will be able to kind of plan that out for us. And that kind of looks, if you've seen a traffic study, it shows which direction the traffic goes and everything. So they can say in 10 years, we're going to have to make these upgrades 100 south and these upgrades at 300 south. we can kind of plan those out as we go accordingly. So, and then moving on then to ordinance 2020-02, this is the annexation that's associated with this project. We do have all the consents in hand. There was one that until about 2 minutes before the meeting tonight, we weren't sure if we were going to get it. We were assured that it was already signed. And then I actually did see a photo of it. Apparently they thought they'd sent it to us and did not, but I have seen it. So we do have all the consents on the annexation squared away. I don't have a real good image to show you. I think you kind of have a gist of it having looked at it throughout the PUD ordinance, but I'll put it on the overhead so you kind of get an idea. This is the primary portion that would be annexed. The rest of the developments to the south in this area, so this is everything that's outside the city limits right now. It's about 1,100 acres. This represents what's being requested for annexation as part of this development. So procedurally, again, this is first reading of the annexation ordinance. At your next meeting, you'll have the second reading of the ordinance and the resolution for the fiscal plan. If those are all adopted, then there's a 30-day waiting period before the annexation becomes effective. At that time, then they would come back through to the Plan Commission and Council and amend the PUD ordinance for Waterford to include the rest of this annexation area. So right now, the PUD ordinance only includes the part that are within the city limits because that's the only place we have planning jurisdiction. So once the annexation is effective on the rest of this, then the ordinance will be amended to then further include the rest of this.
I have a question. I
Yes, sir.
thought there was something that in a census year, the annexation doesn't take effect until the following year.
That was
In the year before census.
The year before the
Yeah.
census,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, we had a couple.
Never mind.
Yeah, we had a couple annexations last year that weren't effective until January 1. Yeah, this year we're okay though.
There actually is a state law to try to change that, because we don't know why we do that. So. Any questions for Ben before I have Rob read the ordinance?
No, sir.
Yes, on County Road 100 South, the properties that are notched out on the south side, is there not any interest in annexation there, or they weren't approached, or?
We didn't
Do they know?
necessarily approach them at this point. Certainly if there's any interest or willingness to annex in order to get public utilities as are provided out in that area, that certainly can be discussed. At this point, we had requests for annexations from the property owners you see shaded in the gray. So for sure, once this is effective, there are others that want to be annexed in to get utilities as they become available. That certainly is an option as well.
Is there any process requirement of notifying those people on both sides of 100, or any certain distance around this annexation?
It's only 300 feet, so I know there's some people that are not far from this development, but it doesn't take much to get outside of 300 feet.
Sure.
So I know there was one gentleman that lived, I think, just north of this area, and they're about 3 properties removed from this, and my guess is he's just outside the 300 feet, so. Unfortunately, in a big development like this, 300 feet doesn't get you very far.
Sure.
But we did double check to make sure we notified everybody within that 300 feet and did.
So the people on the south side have been notified of?
Yeah, anybody that is within 300 feet would have been notified.
And then what's going on with the one there and around E? Just no interest? There's a little notch out there in section E.
Yeah, again, that was a piece of, a majority of this area is owned by one property owner, and that was one property they own. And I'm sure the applicant can tell you a little bit more, but they were required to buy all of the property they had for sale, which includes these pieces on the east side of 400.
Okay.
So again, there's a home that sits right there that's surrounded by farm field right now that's this property owner. It's the Martin Merlin family that owns all that.
Any other questions for Ben? Okay. At this time, I'll have Rob read ordinance 2020-02.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, ordinance 2020-02 contains an annexation certain territory within the city of Lebanon. 100% of the owners of the parcels that are proposed for annexation are identified in Exhibits A and B, and that's the annexation area. The Lebanon Advisory Plan Commission held a public hearing at their meeting on January 21st, 2020, and forwarded docket 20-06 to this council with a favorable recommendation 6-0 to assign the single-family residential zoning classification for the annexation area. This council will conduct a public hearing this evening, January 27, 2020, as required by law. This council will have a fiscal plan for the annexation area, and this annexation area meets the contiguity requirements under Indiana law. And this council would find that the annexation area, generally located within the south side of 100 South, on both the east and west sides of 400 East and adjacent to the existing corporate limits along the southern and western boundaries of the annexation area would be declared annexed to and declared to be part of the city of Lebanon. It would also include the contiguous public highways and rights-of-ways. The annexation area would be assigned Council District 2, and the annexation area again would be assigned single-family zoning classification, and it would be in full force and effect within 30 days upon passage and publication.
Thank you, Rob. Any additional questions now the ordinance has been read?
No, sir.
Okay, this time I'll open public hearing on ordinance 2020-02. Any thoughts, comments? Please feel free to step forward and share them with us. Okay, at this time, I will close the public hearing on ordinance 2020-02. The resolution ordinance has been read on first reading, so again, it will be up for second reading at our February 10th, 2020 meeting. That concludes those two ordinances. For sake of time tonight, I will hold back on resolution 2020-03. Is there any other new business from council? Okay, would move on to claims. Would entertain a motion concerning the claims.
Make a motion, we pay claims.
Second. We have a motion and a second to pay the claims. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Claims are approved. And would entertain a motion to adjourn. Actually, excuse me, I'm sorry. Are there any announcements, discussion? Okay. Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Our next meeting is on February 10th at 7:15 PM. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.